welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. Vlogcast that comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. This vlogcast started as a combination of spite and the Streisand effect because I like pissing on people's parade. I like kicking people's puppies. I like swizzle stirring kittens. I don't know. I like looking at TikTok and not seeing the shark puppet account. Thank you. You don't know what I'm talking about? Congratulations. Go ahead. I dare you. Go ahead and look that up later. Part of this is to follow through with the old adage, sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. I'm your main host. I am known as Shujin Tribble pretty much everywhere. You can find me under that name, Shujin. Let me go ahead and introduce you to the gang because we got stuff. That's better. I need to make sure that I hit the right buttons every once in a while. There's my name. I'm doing good. So tonight, from just outside of Pritis, Alberta, where it's a balmy minus 19 Celsius, Dalan, hi. I told you I was eventually going to start doing that.
Yeah, hold on a sec here. Just bear with me for a moment.
Yep. Pritis. Pritis. I misspoke. I'm sorry. It's pronounced Pritis.
Yeah. Well, okay. It is about 41 minutes southwest of where I am.
Just outside of. That's exactly like I said.
Yeah.
Hi. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm a bastard sometimes. Actually, no. I'm a bastard always. From the Midwest of the U.S., Brigid. Good evening.
Good evening.
And from around the beltway of tightening up the belt there in DC, because, well, you don't have to tighten up the belt anymore because they're saying in DC, hey, you know what? Maybe kids want to have more pizza and fries and fewer vegetables and fruits in their school lunches. UnrenownedTech, good morning.
Why do you have to associate me with stupidity?
I don't associate you. I associate your location. It's different. So,
and if you start calling me Maryland man, you're gonna get it.
Nope.
Nope.
I know better. I remember those days. Days. So anyway, hi everybody. We're back.
No, seriously.
As long as ketchup is still a vegetable, we're good, right?
Tomatoes. Okay, so knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing that the tomato goes on the salad, not your ice cream.
Constitution is eating a no longer ripe tomato. Dexterity is throwing the tomato at someone that richly deserves it on stage.
Hopefully they have good constitution.
Strength is being able to crush the tomato in your hand. And there's a thing for making them walk and try to take over the world, but without John Astin, I mean, what the hell's the point?
Nanotechnology. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Thank you. Some people don't know who John Astin was. John Astin, the worst Riddler ever. Seriously, the worst. John Astin. And before anybody asks, what? Yes. John Astin was the Riddler. At one point. Fortunately, it didn't last long. You're looking that up, aren't
John
you?
Astin. No, I'm just saying I like John Astin as an actor. But yeah, John Astin, Frank Gorshin. Do I really need to make a comparison here?
No. And I did get the chance to see him once at a sci-fi con. Great. He was adorable to watch. Anyway, so hi, good evening, everyone. It's nice to be back with you. It's been weird because there's technical things going on. There's weather-related things going on. Anyway, so we'll see how this all plays out. Over in the live chat right now, which is over on this side of your screen for yourselves. Thank you. Felis, Stephanie, Felis, and some fat ass motherfucker on the whatever. Yeah. So I've got a couple of things that I want to do before we get started over here. I'm gonna open up my window just a little bit more for a reason. There we go. First off, I am using my. I'm going to be drinking out of my Betty Boop mug. There's a reason. And it's got everything to do with the. My video was being weird. Okay, I don't know why.
Yeah, I noticed that it's flickering.
Yeah, so that. There's a reason. It's got everything to do with my opening of my 5-minute freestyle tonight. So, my coffee is just regular coffee. There's nothing special about it other than the creamer that I've been using. I got it at Aldi's. That's not the problem. The problem is it's flavored as cinnamon Danish swirl thing. This was a bad idea. This was just a bad idea. I don't recommend that. The other item, really quickly, was specifically for Felis, although I'm going to kind of do this all for all of you guys. Excuse me one second while I get up. 2 props. All right. First prop. Is this poor sorry excuse of a cast iron pan is the second one that I had. It's kind of shaped like it were a wok. I've talked about this one recently.
Wow.
This has been in my basement. This has survived. I say this literally a couple of basement floods some couple of years ago. And I finally decided to pull it out and see what I could do. I haven't done anything with it yet. However, showing you the you know how it's all kinds of rusted. Here's prop number 2. Put that one down. Oh my.
An angle grinder.
Well, I was using a wire brush on my cordless drill, which I found out the batteries packs still hold some charge. I kind of made a little bit of a boo-boo. I kind of caught myself a little bit 4 times because I'm a dumbass that way. However, the actual 12-inch pan came out, reminding you it looked almost the same as that other one. Yes.
Nice.
I
Just
did
make
it.
sure
Good job.
you season that bad boy proper, otherwise you're going to wind up with crap in your system.
Oh, I already have. Trust me, I already have. I found two different instructions on how to do it. Here's the thing.
Did you use the Crisco method?
What one instruction said, cover, after it's all cleaned out, when you put the oil on it, make sure it's a nice light sheen. One of them said, put it in your oven at 375 for an hour, hour and a half, and let it cool before you go ahead and you do it, another 2-3 times. You really want to get it really good, do it like 5 times, and you'll be set for like a decade. I'm exaggerating a little bit. And then there is another one that said to do almost exactly the same thing. The only difference was, instead of it being 1 hour, 2 maybe, they suggested like 4 or 5 hours at as hot as your oven will go, i.e. 500 degrees.
Wow.
I did 2 of each. So if this thing ain't seasoned properly, ain't nobody's fault except for thermodynamics.
You're well seasoned at this point.
I damn well better be.
And if you get really good at it, you'll be a seasoned pro.
Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, that was a lot of work to put into it, and
it looks good though.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it. It's definitely worth it. Oh my good freaking lord. Tech, I just saw the thumbnail for the information you put from Wikipedia about John Astin. He was in the Navy. Oh my god.
No, that is
the thumbnail.
Was, the Operation Petticoat.
Okay, I've never seen
it.
That.
It was a sitcom.
Yeah, I know.
So
of it.
that was.
I never saw it.
Yeah, that was the publicity photo.
I saw there was a movie that came out about Operation Petticoat, and I think that's where it started. And for anybody that's listening, the big thing about that is that they were a submarine crew, I believe, and their ship. Well, they had to paint it because they needed, to paint it properly, but they didn't have enough gunmetal gray as a primer, so they had to mix it with a red primer. The end result was a great big pink submarine.
By the way, John's still alive and he lives in Baltimore.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
And like the last thing I saw John Astin in was in Night Court, where he played Judge Harry's father, who was an expatriate, I guess, of the mental healthcare system.
Oh.
Yeah.
Stephanie in chat is saying Operation Petticoat is hilarious and well worth watching.
Yes.
So is Hot Fuzz.
Yes.
I don't know Hot Fuzz.
And I will say this much. I almost want to call it the spiritual successor to Operation Petticoat, Up Periscope with Kelsey Grammer.
You mean Down Periscope?
Was it Down Periscope? I thought it was Up Periscope.
No, Down Periscope.
Well, you know what? Up, down was a 50-50 chance.
In the Navy.
Yeah, but in either case, it was a good show.
Okay. We just had more dropouts there. And everything on for everybody watching, listening after the fact, there's been a technical thing that's been bugging me from last week, and now it's apparently happening into this week, and I'm not sure what the hell it is yet. Where the way this all works on the technical side, and please forgive me if this is boring a little bit. The way that we work this is we use Discord, that I host the call, and everybody basically home runs into me. I then capture that window with the streaming software and then ship it to YouTube so that it can get streamed out to all you guys and get captured that way. Well, the problem is, every once in a while, I have been seeing my network just drop out.
You're audio skipping now at this point.
That's not.
And I'm not talking about from the YouTube feed. I'm talking about here in Discord.
No, I know, and okay. There's not much of anything I can do about that. I'm currently watching what's going on, or as best I can, with my computer system overall. I'm not seeing anything that would indicate that I've got a technical issue on my side. So
no, I honestly, I think tonight is probably going to be a net issue, just given the weather and everything.
It's possible, but the fact that it's happened more than once is disconcerting for me. So if we end up still having these stutters, dropouts, and such, please forgive me. We're kind of we'll try and figure out what in the hell is going on and kind of work it from there. Maybe I will investigate a bigger bandwidth for my internet. I don't know, because my output is supposed to be 1.5 megabit, which I think is what it come down. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I forget what it's supposed to be, and obviously right now I'm not going to go do a speed test because that would be wrong and bad, and we're not going to do that. Anywho, let me get everything rolling, because like I said, I have to explain about the Betty Boop mug. There's reasons. Trust me, it's going to be, it should be entertaining for some, and for others, it might be a little, wait, what? So let me go ahead and get that rolling over here. So with 5 minutes on the clock, your 5-minute freestyle starts right now. Now, the first piece about it is, like I was saying, the Betty Boop mug is kind of, I've loved Betty Boop. I think that she's absolutely adorable. And the fact that old broad is over 80 years old and she still looks like a freaking hottie, you know, you gotta give credit where credit is due. But she was also one of, and I said this at the time, She was one of 5 women I said that I would ever leave my wife for, or really to cheat on her. Betty Boop was one of them. Let me see. There was Betty Boop, Jessica Rabbit, Jasmine of Agrabah, Minerva Mink, and Hollywood. Now, some people might notice that there's a kind of a running theme in all of this, which did not get past my wife at the time, because I said this in front of her, and well, oh, and that's brilliant. Now I just had another dropout. That's just brilliant, and nothing is out of the way for my system. All right, whatever. So anyway, so I said this, and she went ahead and she said, "You know what, honey? That's fine. Let me just remind you of 2 words: paper cuts." It's fair to say that she had a head on her shoulders, and she was not to be put out. So, with that in mind, the piece that seems like it doesn't connect. There was a thing that ended up coming up on Facebook. It wasn't an argument. It was an actual philosophical question. The idea of how much should we subject people to when we're dealing with things like cancer treatment, when maybe you're only going to get a few weeks, a few months, maybe a couple of years, maybe. Why do we find this important, so vitally important to do? Because if you were to ask anybody, almost anybody, I'm pretty sure that as a species, for the most part, we would say, yeah, you work at it, you fight, and you do. Even if it's not us, we want you to try. We want someone to have as much as possible to beat it off.
What's that?
I do not know. That wasn't on my side.
That sounded like a
Doesn't matter.
bearing on a fan.
Let it go. So, where this comes together was that I actually answered. And to paraphrase, it was basically this. When my wife was going through her cancer treatments, one of the things that she told me was, so long as I have breath, there is hope. We don't want to give in when it is a battle like that. We don't want to just throw in the towel and say it's a hopeless cause. We don't want to give up a war. Because when you're dealing with a terminal diagnosis, doesn't matter what it is, it's war. You're probably on the back end of some really bad statistics. And for my wife, 20% lived up to 5 years. Those are some pretty long odds. But the question becomes, why would we do that? Why would we fight so hard for that? Because so long as there is breath, so long as there is the hope, so long as there is the possibility that maybe, just maybe, a game changer is about to have happen, what would we be like if we said, you know, if we had just waited just 5 more months? That level of regret cannot be measured. And I say that as somebody who holds it every day of his life, every hour of his waking being. You can't measure that. You never want to. We fight because giving up is just not in our makeup. It's just not. This is episode 294 on the docket, Your Honor. Catch 22 equals doubling down. Oh my God, how many times have we been hearing these people who have just said, yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you whatever falls out of my face because I think it's right and I want to be right. And we've got a difference in I know who that is. Because now that I'm looking at the screen, I can see the light going off. That's Joseph. Joseph, good morning.
Ah,
Joseph, if that's your computer, you've got issues, and you probably shouldn't be running it.
Joseph? I do not know what's going on. We know that you're there, but we're hearing not your microphone.
We're hearing vibrations that are being caused by potentially very bad things happening to your computer.
I'm not entirely sure if that's a computer or an electric toothbrush or something.
Or is
That's
vibrator.
exactly where I'm going with that one.
I mean, it might be a vibrator.
Okay, for the record, I did not go there.
I did. You're welcome.
I skirted the perimeter, but I did not. You know what?
Oh.
I'm going to stop right now.
All I did was laugh. That's all I did.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb here and say the word Sibian. For those of you that know what I'm talking about, you're my people. Those of you that
Next
don't
on the
know,
Howard Stern Show.
No.
That would explain why you can't talk.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes.
This just, yeah. Thank you. Whatever was going on there just opened up a whole new world of what the hell?
Oh, sorry about that.
Remember, kids, before Googling, ask your parents.
No. Especially if you're looking at Cars 2 and you're trying to understand why is everybody all together in the room and there's all kinds of why are they holding a lemon party with all these junkers? No, don't look that up. Trust us. You don't want to look that up. Just trust me on
Trust
this one.
us.
Trust Uncle Shoe. This time, really, seriously, just don't. Anyway. So like I said, we've been dealing with people who are just going to go ahead and just double down on whatever the hell falls out of their faces, especially if they are going to be made to look like they don't know what in the hell they're talking about because they don't, I guess is the best way of putting it. And really, is it even worth trying to get through these knuckleheads sometimes?
As long as people continue believing them,
well, we'll have to see
that's
about
a
that.
problem, because if people didn't believe them, then they wouldn't do that anymore.
Pretty much. So I did go looking up information. Unfortunately, we don't have anything new on Rafe Badawi's condition. However, we can actually say happy birthday. He turned, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, he turned 36 this week. 36. With no new information. Reminding you, he is just now 36. It has now been 7 years, 7 months, 3 days since he was unjustly incarcerated for thought crimes. Our hopes and our thoughts are still with you and your family, and we are still waiting and hoping. We're still here for you. So with that, here's the biggest problem that I've got with this topic. I had the ghost of heretics past in my head, thumping away like I don't know even how to describe it, just banging away at my head What the hell do you mean? Do you keep? Is it worth talking with these people and bouncing off of their head? What the hell is wrong with you? What the hell was I doing all this time? Don't you have copies of all the tabs in my computer? Oh, fuck me. So, therein lies the problem. How much do we really want to thump our heads against the wall?
When the Tylenol no longer works, I think you've hit your limit.
Yep.
I'll drink to that.
Yeah, no. I don't argue that much with people on social media or whatever. I've got my reasons. but but truth be told, the biggest one is, and to quote that one lady from Oklahoma, ain't nobody got time for that.
Mm-hmm.
Some jackhole is going to post on Facebook about, anti-vaxxing or whatever.
We're dropping out again.
Yeah. I can pretty much guarantee that you're not going to change their mind. You can post the facts and then you've seen it. They'll say one thing, you disclaim it or you dispel it. They roll into something else and then they call you a shill for big pharma, which another thing we actually talked about on this show before when we had Andrew Torres on.
Oh, yes.
Talking about that the conspiracy is too big. Like logistically speaking,
it's nuts.
Like, yeah, it would have to be like Illuminati level shit. But then, of course, as soon as you say that, you get a bunch of people saying, well, the Illuminati's real because the alien guy with the bad hairdo said that. I'm not saying it's aliens, but the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I actually watched that guy once and I thought, like, what the hell are you? Like, were you like rejected for a role in Babylon 5 there, buddy?
Wow, there's a deep.
Like, I'm sorry,
right
Londo Malari called and you suck,
I'm sorry. There's a flag on that play. Peter Jurasik is dead, unfortunately. His actor, Peter Jurasik.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Peter Jurasik. Yeah, I know.
Jurasik.
Jurasik. Yeah.
Yeah. He was in Tron. He was in Tron. Yeah, the first one.
What part did he play in Tron?
I forgot. I think it was Ram. No. It wasn't Ram. He was an accounting program in one of the cells right next to Tron. So deep cuts.
He was
very early.
What was his name?
Very early in the movie.
Yeah. I can't remember his name, but he was the one that Flynn faced off against in that first game.
Could have been.
Where they were bouncing the ball off the ceiling it was almost like a weird game of highlight.
Could have been. I forget which one it was. I don't think that one was him. But you know what?
Yeah.
Moving on. Because we'll deal with that one later. Because we can always look it up. IMDb is whatever. Screw it. I'll just pop Tron into the. Yeah, I'll just pop it into my computer one of these days and take a look.
If we're talking about obituaries, there's I heard that the drummer for Rush.
Yep,
yeah.
That was last week.
Glioblastoma.
Okay.
And at least on this week, we can say, happy 98th birthday, Betty fucking White.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Wow, this is bad. I'm not drinking anything alcoholic tonight, and I've dropped too damn many F-bombs at this point. I'm sorry. I apologize. Sorry.
Yeah, I took Neil Peart's loss pretty hard and was totally stunned. I'm just telling Joseph because I expected if he went, it would be heart disease or something like that. I never in a million years would have thought cancer.
Well, apparently he knew he was going. Have you listened to the latest Geologic podcast? It's a nice...
Well, yeah. George Schwab was a big fan of his, actually.
I want to see about getting George on sometime.
Yeah. Brigid, I'm actually popping something into our Discord chat that you might be interested in.
Okay.
This is a guy, I follow him. Well, actually, I'm a patron of his on Patreon, and he's a Norwegian fella with an Italian sounding last name, but he usually takes a lot of like pop music, and he covers them in a metal fashion, or he'll take a metal song and do it acoustically.
Oh, Leo, right?
Yep.
Yeah. But this week he actually did Tom Sawyer, and I'm pretty sure, I haven't seen the end of it, but I think it's a dedication to Neil Peart.
So he sells his albums where he's done the covers of music as well as some of his own stuff.
Yeah.
I have 13 of his albums.
Yeah, as I said,
general or host check, 'cause I'm not seeing anything.
Check our Discord chat.
It's what I'm looking, general or host.
No, for this call.
The call.
Oh, the call. Duh.
Yeah. And actually, Tech, because I'm a patron, as soon as it pops up on the feed, I get a link to the download.
Very cool.
Like I can get to his Dropbox, and with a click, I've got all 23 now albums.
Nice.
Yeah, some of the stuff he gets away with is absolutely hilarious. And he's actually on tour with several other internet guitar artists and singers, and he's actually got his own band, the Frog Leap Band.
His wife has her own band too.
Yeah, Baskatok or whatever, Stina, and Leo. I mean, no offense, but from what I've seen of her, all I can really just say is, oh my. She's a damn good bassist, and yeah, just she strikes quite the profile.
Fair enough.
And their daughter is adorable.
Oh my God, yes.
She's so cute.
Any child who is so cute that a heavy metal artist will do the wheels on the bus go round and round in metal style, or Hakuna Matata for that matter,
or Frozen.
Yes. Well, okay, I've heard Frozen done so many different ways because.
Yeah, but his was pretty damn good.
Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of like toss a coin to your Witcher too. He did it. Frozen's Let It Go and Toss a Coin to Your Witcher was like two of the most over covered songs out there that personally I think were better than the original.
That happens sometimes. Back on track.
Thank you.
Stephanie had said, you are talking about Brexit?
Not yet.
No, but
give it time.
This is the problem. We've the rationale for why I came up with this is that I'm watching the yelling and screaming going on regarding the body politic in my country. Just leave it alone for a couple seconds. But we've seen this happen with those who are of a religious mindset way too many times. I had a moment earlier today where watching Supernatural with some folks. Just go with me for just a second, because that wasn't gunpowder, was it?
That better not have been a gunshot.
Sorry, it was not.
It sounded like a gunshot.
It did.
Oh, she apologized for it not being a gunshot. What the hell?
It was a gravity check. It still works.
Okay,
Thank
that's
goodness.
fine. That's fine. Okay, so for those that don't know about this show, I only watch it a couple of times with my friends because they've got it. But anyway, Supernatural. So the brothers who investigate all kinds of paranormal things, because in this universe, this is a real thing. So it's whatever. They passed themselves off as Catholic, I think, priests. So they were in black shirt, and the collar and okay. And they were visiting someone because somebody ended up getting dead-defied in a very questionable way that seemed just a little too not really of this earth, shall we say. And they were trying to get information out of him, and they stopped in while they're having the wake at the house, and guy ends up popping one of the little dainty sausage, little mini hot dogs in his mouth. And I looked at that and I'm just like, I hope that wasn't pork. And I got weird looks because they're like, what are you talking about? Pork, pork's a no-no. Shellfish too. What are you talking about? These are Catholics. Yeah, Old Testament. No, Catholics don't do that. I wanted to say, I was raised Catholic. I know that we kind of bypass all that, but it's kind of in the rule book there for all the Abrahamics. I didn't follow up on it. I didn't. But I knew that I was right. Because I can't quote you chapter and verse, but I'm pretty sure it's Leviticus with all that weird stuff. Mm-hmm. Is that the one that's also got the if you want stripes in the fleece, you breed the sheep behind the slatted? Is
probably.
Whatever.
Leviticus is the equivalent of all the prime directives that they put in RoboCop's head in the second movie.
Oh my God, that was all right. Anyway, so
yeah, and the ones about tattooing and crap.
Yeah. So everybody in Polynesia is going to hell. Hey, great, whatever.
Oh, that reminds me of a Darwin Award I just read about today.
Okay.
No, it's a thing that I do on I do on Saturdays now. But yeah, the one that I had was this guy who was going to give what was it? Pants, a soccer ball, and Jesus to a tribe. And the last time the fishermen saw him, he was being dragged around the island by a rope around his neck. They have not recovered his body yet.
Oh, that old thing?
Yeah. No, this is a recent one, apparently.
Yeah.
Wait, they tried again?
Let me call it up.
If I remember right, that would have been sometime spring, summer of this past year.
Here it is.
It's an old one.
No, this actually happened November 14th, 2018 at the Andaman Islands in India.
Oh, is this the dumbass that tried to go to him twice, and the fisherman off of India, I think is where it was?
Yeah, John Allen Chow, a self-proclaimed world explorer inspired by Livingston and Jesus.
Yep.
I still can't figure that one out because Jesus was not a world explorer.
That's the guy.
Was killed by the very tribe of natives he was trying to offer eternal life. According to the BBC in Delhi, Chow bribed 6 fishermen to ferry him to the off-limits island so he could offer the Sentinelese tribe gifts of, here we go, scissors, a soccer ball, and Jesus.
Yeah, OFN.
Yeah. Oh God, he's from Vancouver.
That we don't hold that against the Vancouver.
Well, okay. To be fair.
No, wait a minute. This bypasses this. Is it Vancouverites? Vancouverans? Canuck? I don't know how it's.
I think it's Vancouver.
West Coast stoners.
Okay, that works too.
Yeah. Anyways, he's a Vancouver resident, but he's an Alabama native.
He's not a Vancouver resident. He's dead.
Yes,
yeah. Anyways, he wanted to make contact with the 60,000-year-old tribe because the eternal life of this tribe is at hand.
Yes.
He paddled to the island in a kayak and was immediately attacked by arrows, but continued walking. The fisherman then witnessed the natives, quote, tying a rope around his neck and dragging his body along the shore. So they were clearly rejecting his gifts.
Yes, Indian law actually says it's illegal for anybody to go visit that island.
Yep.
Not because you're
Um,
going to die, but because they recognize the independence of the island and the fact that the people on the island don't want anybody there.
Oh,
Now,
it's
Yep.
now thanks to science, we understand that eventually they will die out because
Yeah.
nobody is bringing in fresh DNA.
Yeah.
Eventually,
hold it. You need a population of, if memory serves, I think the number is 10,000 to keep DNA working well. But that's not even the biggest issue. This guy might have killed the tribe just by his presence alone because, well,
Germs.
germs.
Yeah.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely.
But then again, this tribe is over 60,000 years old, and British occupation almost wiped them out during the 1800s. So it sounds to me like they do have a fair bit of staying power in terms of being able to deal with people. It's also very possible that Buddy's got a, maybe he had all the shots. I don't know. But no, I talked about this tonight with the guys on the show tonight that I was doing, and yeah, we all just kind of went, yeah, scissors, a soccer ball, and Jesus, like unbelievable.
And he couldn't take no for an answer.
Nope.
What about
Well,
their sense
yeah.
of agency?
No, he
Yeah,
tried.
okay,
Again,
so
this is not a new one.
No.
This is we've actually discussed this before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he tried twice, as a matter of fact.
yeah, so here's where a double down didn't do you so well.
See, here's the thing. Shujin, I understand where your question comes from, because part of it comes from the fact that when we look at people who are heavily into the religion and just have to tell everybody about it, and when they come to an opposing viewpoint, knocking on the door, you're going to do that. They have to, no, I'm right, you're wrong. That's why I'm standing in front of your door and you're not standing in front of mine, kind of thing. Oh no, God chose this president because this president is of my religion, and so on and so forth. And no, gay people can't get married because gay is wrong. No, gay people can't adopt because homosexuality is wrong. Well, on a side note, straight people, if you don't want gay people adopting your babies, stop giving them up for adoption, and stop having unwanted babies. Oh, medically involved sex education will help with that, by the way. Medically accurate, sorry.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I understand where that meant, are we as bad as they are? No. First off, we're on a video stream that anybody in their right mind, no, I said right mind, can choose to ignore. Nobody has to watch our show. Nobody has to listen to our voices. Nobody has to pay us a lick of attention. Not one. And that being said, people can choose to watch us. They can choose to listen to us. And they can choose to disagree with us even. In this country, that's not illegal. And if they think that something that we said is wrong, they are completely and absolutely free to say so. They can do it in the chat. They can send us email. They can do the phone call through the Google Voice thingy.
And we encourage discussion.
Exactly. Because if I'm wrong about something and you can demonstrate that I'm wrong about something, I will admit I'm wrong about something. And I think I've already done that several times on this show in the years that we've done.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure there's a couple things I've said that I got something mixed up, or the title of a book or reference of a chapter or something like that screwed up, because at this late hour in the day, I'm tired.
Yeah.
And I'm getting older too.
I think it's fair to say that we've all said things that we found out afterwards were wrong, and we have all learned from these experiences. And
well, not Brigid. She's always
she's an asshole. I mean, let it go.
She's been perfect nonstop. But anyway, so here's another thing. On a recent episode of the Atheist Experience with Matt Dillahunty and I think was it Dan Baker, they had mentioned that one of the reasons they did the show, at least one of the reasons that Matt Dillahunty did the show, and I hope I'm pulling this from memory correctly, because my memory is not the greatest, but we can go back and always it's episode 24.2, I believe.
Tech?
And
Tech?
yep, onto it.
Tech?
What? Yeah.
Get on with it.
Sorry. One of the things he said is that the reason why he does the show is because, to paraphrase, he feels that it would be wrong to not do it. Because the people who are going out there and trying to make you think that being gay is wrong, that gay marriage is wrong, that gays should not be allowed to adopt children is wrong, that and so on and so forth, all the things that theology does, is more harmful than him talking to people and saying, look, you need to start sitting down and critically thinking about your religion. You need to start asking questions and so on and so forth. He feels that by not doing the conversations that he has with people, it would allow more harmful things to occur. And he also mentioned that, he doesn't do it to convince the person he's talking to on the phone right then and there. He's doing it to talk to the audience like we do.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the people who are on the fence, who are inquisitive, who will hear and have the opportunity of thinking through and have questions perhaps answered from there.
Exactly. And I relate that to, I use as an analogy to that, the Bill Nye and Ken Ham debate. Bill Nye was not there to convince Ken Ham he was wrong. He was there to talk to everybody else.
Yeah.
That opens up a really interesting quandary now that I hadn't really considered. The idea that not educating, not sharing knowledge. Oh wow. Thank you.
See, this is not a new concept either.
Hold on a second. The idea of not dispensing education, learning, knowledge is a moral bad. And the reason why I'm all of a sudden having, Dalan knows full well, I'm suddenly having a DJ Zero moment in my head. Do you guys remember the way that I described Genesis and the parable, the story about Adam and Eve, the apple, the serpent, and getting kicked out?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. Real short recap of it. Eve, because she didn't know who was right and who was wrong, basically became the first scientist, and after she found out what good and evil actually was, became the first moralist, the first philosopher, and decided that the best thing to do was to share knowledge with the other sentient in existence and bypass the thou shalt not eat.
Mm-hmm.
This is an amazing coincidence this way, or coinciding items, I should say, where, like I said, the idea of not imparting knowledge is a moral bad. And I've never thought of it in those terms like that for the kind of thing that we do.
Mm-hmm.
That we kind of have a moral, to a certain degree, a moral, what's the word I'm looking for? Imperative.
I'm about to blow your mind.
Obligation. That's the word I'm looking for. Joseph.
Can I reframe that?
Joseph, yeah.
Because basically, it comes back to what I'm always harping on. Because when we're exchanging information, we have each other's survival as a principal interest. But people who would rather that you not learn or not know, they want you to depend on them for survival. Basically, it comes down to autonomy. Is that English?
Autonomy? Yeah. It's an unusual word for it, but it's still accurate.
Okay.
Here's something that's going to blow your mind. This is not a new concept. This is very old. It's used in a lot of things. For example, the first law of robotics is that a robot, either through action or inaction, may not harm a human being. or allow a human being to come to harm. And that means that if the robot knows that somebody is going to become to harm by a lack of knowledge, the robot must therefore share knowledge to prevent harm.
Whoa, hold it. I'm sorry. I had something. I had Stephanie writing something, and I was trying to read in concept that, and I missed what you were saying because the second law that was the second law that you quoted.
It was the first law. A robot may not, through action or inaction, allow a human being come to harm.
Okay, that one I remember. The next one that you were just going through about
No,
knowledge.
no, the knowledge wasn't one of the written laws. What I said is that if a robot knows that a person, this is not a law. This is using the first law to validate this reasoning.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So if the robot sees a human being and that human being apparently appears to not or somehow demonstrate a lack of knowledge about something that can harm it, and that lack of knowledge causes harm,
Okay.
potentially, the robot is therefore obligated by the first law to go share that knowledge with that human being.
Okay.
Likewise, if you're trying to live a life where you're doing as little harm as possible, as much good as possible, to believe as many true things as possible and not believe as many false things as possible, then you're obligated to not just yourself, but the people around you to ensure that information is open, available, and shareable. You don't have to force feed somebody. That's opposing your will upon them. It's kind of like me and my SO. I'm an atheist. My SO is not. However, we both agree to have open civil discussion when we feel like it. When something comes up in the news and it bothers us for one reason or another, we talk. Whatever comes up, but we're civil. We're polite to each other. We don't yell. That's the important thing. Everybody's yelling right now. We don't yell. And after we talk, if we agree on something, we agree on something. If we don't, we don't. But we've had the discussion. We have shared knowledge. And science allows us to test that knowledge, whereas religion doesn't. But we've shared, and that is something very special. And more people, the better in terms of sharing, because eventually the stuff that we can test, the non-supernatural stuff, the natural stuff, we can test that. We can find out whether or not we've got false information or true information, whether it's fact or false. So ultimately, sharing at the end of the day is a good and a greater good at that.
Yep. No,
It's the methodology that we always have to question. How are we sharing it, and are we causing harm to another during the sharing process?
Ooh, that can get kind of dicey.
Well, it can get dicey, but you again, just like the data that's being shared,
No, I
you
got you.
can test that.
No, I got you. The thing that I was suddenly thinking is knowledge harmful, and I'm pretty sure that at least a couple of us can kind of wince a little bit internally at this one. The doctor coming into the hospital room to give the terminal diagnosis.
Well, I don't think the information itself is harmful. I think it's what we do with it can be harmful. For example, I have a copy of the Anarchist Cookbook from way back in the day, back before the internet was popular.
Mm-hmm.
And you can still get it. You can absolutely get it. And there are things in there that if you try to perform, there's a really good chance you're going to lose a ham, arm, or your face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't recommend anybody actually try anything that's in there. However, upon reading much of it, not all of it, but a lot of it, I realized that there are a lot of things in my home that if they didn't have the proper safety features, if they weren't designed well, could cause me harm. And that helped me better proof my home when it came to my child's well-being later on in life. I remembered, oh yeah, this can do this. Yeah, that can do that. And ooh, these mixed together can do really bad things. I'm going to put these in separate spaces.
Okay. And folks, forgive us if we had a little bit of a dropout there. I saw another one happen, and nothing is untoward with my computer settings. Again.
But yeah,
All right.
ultimately, what you do with the knowledge determines whether you harm or not harm. Yeah, if a doctor comes in and tells me I've got stomach cancer, and unless they treat it properly, I'm going to die in the next year, very, very painful, I might add, stomach cancer. That to me is not harmful knowledge. That's helpful. You've told me that I have an illness. You told me that I need treatment, and you've given me a prognosis of time frame without treatment. This allows me to act.
No, I understand. I agree. It's just that
the feelings suck.
Yeah.
Knowledge is basically a tool. So
yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. I couldn't have said it better than that.
It's
awesome.
It's like a hammer.
Yes.
You can pound a nail into a piece of wood, or you can cave in somebody's skull. A screwdriver, like what Shujin's got right there. Exactly. You can use it to, screw a screw in. You can mark something on a piece of leather like you would with an awl.
You can threaten your home server that doesn't want to behave itself, but it doesn't work. I've tried.
Or you can pick your nose with it.
I don't recommend that. I don't.
Yeah,
I really don't.
Well, it depends on how deep you're trying to go.
Yeah, or you can take out somebody's eye.
You could.
You'll shoot your eye out.
You could. I don't.
The one thing I struggle with is if you're trying to educate someone, when they start moving the goalposts, I have no idea what to do with that.
Well,
like there's an example.
Didn't I talk about that one like last week, where I had somebody doing that?
I mean, people do that. I'm just not sure what to do with it. And my husband brought me an example earlier of some of these evangelicals that support Trump have now decided that they are bound and they are morally obligated to support him, and that Jesus was too liberal, and so they need to let the teachings of Jesus go by the wayside because it's more important to support Trump.
Hold on a second here. Jesus was too liberal.
He was a libtard.
As spoken by Christians who are supposed to be following the teachers of, dare I say, Christos.
Can I underline following in just what you said like 1,000 times?
Yeah.
So their priorities have changed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's whatever, whoever's feeding them, whatever,
and
whoever their leader is.
Yes,
it all depends on what they say, not what the Bible says or whatever.
And also,
actually,
as
the Bible
leaders,
has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, and as leaders, they are pandering. They are like the fact that they've changed their tune this much is because right now they're desperately trying to hold on to whatever power they can. So you've got all these Trump supporters who are, well, quite ravenous, I would say, or rabid. They're very, very passionate in their support of this particular individual.
Now, but as an aside, by the way, don't lose your train. As an aside, this is not relegated just to the current political climate over here. We've seen this with evangelicals. We've seen this with the power to the mass preachers, especially the ones like Mr. Popoff, the people who are trying to get as much money out of you by doing the equivalent of the side circus cold reading and hot reading bits. But just want to make sure everybody understands this is something that's been systemic for a very long time in a lot of different places.
And all of this still exists because of it's a credulous base.
Yeah, Agreed. Dalan, keep
Okay.
going. I don't want you to lose
Sorry.
completely.
Yeah. So the thing is, so the evangelicals, I think they're trying to, honestly, this feels like a recruitment drive. Think about it.
Okay.
So you've got these, again, passionate Trump supporters.
That's a good word for it. Okay.
So they insert themselves into the throng of passionate Trump supporters and say, yeah, you know, we rabid Trump supporters, we go to Church X. Are you picking up what I'm dropping? Breathe.
As someone who has done some writing and would very easily understand this reference, am I to interpret that there is a very good possibility that a lot of these people who are incessantly rabid about whether it's the political side or the actual religious side, they're all Mary Sues in their own story, in their own heads?
Yes.
Very possible.
What's Mary Sue?
A Mary Sue is a character that has no journey. It basically is dropped into a story already having all of the powers, all of the answers, and all of the abilities right from the outset. There is no need for the character to develop further.
It is
If you've ever heard of the hero's journey, it's a trope in writing where a person starts off with very little, attains a certain height of power and popularity, suffers a loss because of a flaw. Could be their own pride, could be their own hubris, could be that, you know, they grow complacent on something. They end up losing something very important to them, and then they basically have to rebuild themselves from the start.
Yeah, anybody wants to think about this one, think about Luke Skywalker in the original trilogy.
Think about Tony Stark and Iron Man.
There is that.
Here was a guy who was on top of the world. He lost it all, damn near lost his life, and ended up rededicating himself.
Yep. There is also another piece about this, too, in that Mary Sue is typically a very derogatory term because usually the Mary Sue is also a specific drop-in for the author to drop themselves into their own story's universe.
Yeah, what we also call the shameless self-insert, where they are the hero of their own story.
There's a piece about this that is really super important from a literature standpoint. There is, I don't know that it's quite the trope, but there is an overall good writing style that states, and I'm paraphrasing highly here, the villain, a good villain in a story, is the hero of the story in their own head.
Yep.
Lex Luthor believes that he is actually doing right by trying to overcome and supersede, if you will excuse the expression, and keep Superman out as much as possible because he is technically the uber threat.
Well, and who was it?
Several different variations of DC comics, Superman was a threat.
Yes, but I'm using that as an overall
Yeah,
because some people don't think of Lex in those terms.
Yeah, the one that I look at is, and you know what? I'll take the tomatoes for this one. Kevin Spacey's portrayal of Lex Luthor in Superman Returns. He had a couple of great lines concerning what he thought. Superman is considered almost a god because of his powers.
Fair.
Luthor seems to think that Superman should be willing to share either the secret of his powers or Kryptonian technology with Earth. But of course, Superman doesn't, because you can just imagine what would happen if everybody knew how to create, you know, Kryptonian laser guided whatevers, you know,
the Federation's prime directive.
Yeah, pretty much. But the thing is, Superman's living on a planet and is a public figure who is forced to follow his own prime directive because he understands human nature.
It's funny in what you say, because the base of the problem is the greater human morality. Because if we were in a society where, you know, people wouldn't use a power as an advantage to take other people's shit, that kind of sharing of technology wouldn't be a problem.
You know, there was a story. I wish I could find it again, but it was on a podcast called Escape Pod a long time ago. And it was called something about like Introduction to Nano or something like that. And basically what had happened was the government had, the country or the world had discovered the equivalent of replicator technology. And so the government had created or had sanctioned the construction of these gigantic replicators, and different cities were like, basically there was a replicator in every city, every town, every suburb, wherever. So all you had to do was walk up to it, tell it what you wanted, and you got it. And the way the author had it set, or the way the author wrote the story, society just about completely broke down. Because if tomorrow if we discovered replicator technology tomorrow, and by the end of next year, everybody had that replicator in their house and could make whatever they wanted, the Star Trek future, okay?
All right.
You don't have to go shopping for groceries. So therefore, because this thing makes your food, you no longer have to shop for groceries. Farmers no longer need to work because there's no need for their products anymore because it's all replicated.
You're actually describing a Wall-E scenario.
Well, not necessarily Wall-E, not where everybody's wasting everything, but more a case of
No. He's not talking about that aspect. He's talking about with everybody on the ship afterwards, where every creature comfort is ready to be provided just at the click of a finger.
Yeah. And the thing is, culturally right now, we're not ready for an on-demand world like that.
No.
Because our economy and our culture, like our global culture is not, we're not geared for that just yet.
It's not just that. It's also a fact of maturity. Human maturity with technology, we've demonstrated over and over again. We are not mature enough for the level of technology we already have. And so you will have the if we were to suddenly wake up with replicator technology where everybody had a replicator in their home right now everywhere in the world, and it was tapped into a semi-unlimited power source that powers the universe, so we never have to worry about rechargeable batteries in the history of the earth until it burns out when the sun goes nova. What would happen is you would have people, zealots, who would go, we can't have this, and start wars. They would literally have whatever it is they need to do to make weapons, the weapon itself design even, to start a war, taking out replicator technology, taking out people who use it, convincing everybody that they're wrong. Because why? We already do it.
Yeah, once again, you're talking about people who decide for others and against people who decide for themselves.
Which is the world as we know it today, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it always has been that since probably since we came out of our hunter-gatherer phase.
The question about, are we as species ever really ready for any new particular technologies? We're not, because
we are.
Well, hold on. Let me finish this out.
We can be.
I'm sorry. I'm talking here. I'm
sorry. I'm interjecting.
There you go.
Yeah.
For people that are actual Shakespearean people who are listening right now, there you go. You got that one. You can figure it out later. Shut up. The idea that we are not ready for any new technology is correct when the technology happens. But like with all things, the only way that we become ready for the technology is to put it to use and to find out what happens when you've got it. Which means we create our own scientific experimentation on ourselves with every new change.
Case in point, 3D printing. Allow me to elaborate.
Okay.
When 3D printers were first being talked about, or when they first started hitting the market for whatever reason, I remember back in my old job, there were 3D printing services that were offering to actually create miniature versions of our furniture suites for display purposes. But as soon as I started hearing about that, I also started hearing about, well, what happens if you can 3D print a gun? You can 3D print, the parts of a gun. Therefore, in places where weapons are illegal, people can still make them, and blah-de-blah-de-blah. Now, today, 3D printing has now hit consumer level, which means, I could go out and buy one if I wanted to, and I could probably use it for something. But are the majority of us the type of people who are going to start going out and building our own guns just because we can? So I think you're right about that.
People already do have the ability to build the guns, yes. Mm-hmm. However, what we have here is current technology level is not the same as it would be if we were talking about a perfect replicator, like Star Trek level.
Oh, admittedly.
Because the guns that we could build in our own home are one shot, two shots, and they warp depending on the materials they're made out of. However, metal printers, 3D metal printers, are now shrinking. Instead of taking up an office space, they can now sit at your desk at home, which means we will eventually get to a level where we can print something that can shoot maybe 6 shots or 7 shots before warping until we get to, again, another better model, and so on and so forth. As it becomes easier to reproduce the level of violence that we have now in terms of what do our mass-produced guns at the gun store are capable of versus what we build at home. As we get closer to what's available in the gun store, do not be surprised, especially if we're still at our current mentality about guns in this country, if that goes up.
I want to throw something really quickly at you guys because I know this doesn't exactly fall exactly into the topic, but with what we're talking, although it's tangentially related because, the way this stuff works. I'm going to throw this one out at you guys. Which came first? The first additive method fabrication of three-dimensional plastic bottles? Or the A-Team?
As in the television show?
Yeah.
Maybe
A-Team? Nope.
I don't know. I do not have that knowledge.
Sorry, you want to hit that one again?
Yeah, the first additive fabrication three-dimensional plastic modeling system, or the A-Team. Which came first?
Plastic modeling system.
Basically, the earliest
first 3D
3D printing. Because the 3D model printing that we've traditionally seen has been what's referred to as additive, because you're building up.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if it was the A-Team.
And
I
I
wouldn't
guess
be surprised.
Actually,
because
I'm gonna say the method, the printing method.
shrinky dinks don't count, I suppose.
No, although those go back a little bit further than I remember.
All right, so let me explain why. Before you tell us who's right, the reason why I think the A team may have came first is because we had a tendency in mass manufacturing here in this country, as well as other countries, to do everything using a form molding system.
hmm
So it would not surprise me if it was new, but it also wouldn't surprise me if it was old. I just don't.
And
I
I'm
just don't
thinking,
know.
and I'm thinking we were still using glass bottles for soda and things back then.
Um,
Well,
most
No, there were 2-liter bottles. Out
Yeah,
of
no,
plastic.
plastic bottles have been
Were
around
they?
for
Yeah.
the longest time.
Yeah, I don't remember when the actual changeover happened, but be that as it may, the A Team originally debuted in 1983.
Okay.
According to the Wikipedia article, Hideo Kodama of Nagoya Municipal Industrial Research Institute invented two additive methods for fabricating three-dimensional plastic bottles with photo-hardening thermoset polymer, which means you mix these two chemicals together and you hit it with a UV light to set the polymer, in 1981.
Very
That's
cool.
still pretty recent.
The first, the concept of how to do this was originally published in 1974.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's a lot of ideas that are very, very old that the technology wasn't there to produce.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the first patent in the U.S. was in '84 for the idea of the 3D printing system that we use today. And yes, we have moved from polymers and plastics to metal fabrication and having a 3D printer on the International Space Station, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yes.
Well, like okay, the company I used to work for, the not the last one, but the other one before that.
Mm.
I mean, I don't know if you could. Well, yeah, you could call it fabricating because that's what they did. Point-to-point CNC machines or
Yeah.
CNC routers. The ones we had were tooled for wood, but if you watch something like Orange County Choppers or whatever the other one was,
Oh my God!
the one where they weren't trying to kill each other. Oh yeah, what was it?
There
Oh,
are
the
a
one with
lot.
Jesse James or whatever. But
There-
my
I was going to say there are a lot of YouTube channels that show
Well,
exactly the kind of thing that you're
Yeah.
talking about now.
so to my point, they also have CNC machines that are designed to cut and shape metal or any other material. You name it. If they can find a way to cut or drill it, they've got a machine for that. So I mean, fabrication is it's nothing new. But the thing about 3D printing, like at least in the classic sense that we have now, is that it's now getting to the point where the consumer, where the average Joe, like you, me, we can have one in our house without it being the house or it costing the house.
Yep.
They have
And we
ones
can
that
produce
can
our own
make a
stuff.
house.
Yes.
Well, that's just it. And of course, one of the biggest applications I've seen, just because of the Facebook groups I follow, is that everybody and their dog are making eagles. The Space 1999 group.
Okay.
They're like fabricating their own eagle models.
Nothing wrong with that. There are guys that are doing the models from Elite Dangerous. And as an aside, I remember seeing a demo model where they were showing it off. It didn't do anything. It just stood there on the countertop. So people would go ahead and buy it for about $200 US. I forget how many months ago this was.
Mhm.
At Barnes and Noble bookstore.
Yeah.
Now, can you get these things on the shelf at a Best Buy? Yeah. It's not easy to find them now because Oculus and 3D VR has kind of taken over, and there's something to be said for that. But the fact is, it's there, it's available now. Do we
It's
have?
not-
Sorry.
Yeah, what we're talking about now, and I've been constantly through history, it's not the accessibility or the technology itself, it's actually what we want to do with it. That
Correct.
really...
Yes. And that's where the whole idea of maturity comes from.
Yeah, that's
And
I'm sorry, I was going to say that's the reason why I chose the A-Team, because if anybody's going to go ahead and manufacture guns from a whole bunch of junk, that's the crew.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it's
MacGyver.
purpose driven. Now,
MacGyver, yeah.
Well, yes, but he
but
didn't make guns. I mean,
yeah,
come on.
but the other thing we have to look at too is, okay, so in the West here, we're violent.
Yeah.
Let's face it. You go to an action movie. What?
Hold on, we're having a dropout, and we are back into it again. By the way, I was about to curse at my computer because I now have a new little status bottom that says your device needs to restart in order to install. You sons of bitches! You know, really, that's what's been going on all this time.
Yeah, that's why I rebooted before I.
Well, I reboot, every time because I go from Linux to Windows, and something's been downloading in the background apparently.
But anyways,
thank you, Microsoft.
Over here on this side of the globe, you can watch a TV show. The biggest one I remember, Miami, back in the 80s, where people were unloading entire magazines of clips or entire magazines of bullets into other people. And there was more red sauce there than, marinara night at Red Lobster.
But no nipples.
Being spilled on the screen. But the second you even got so much as a side boob, and people lost things. Now, Joseph, maybe you can clarify this one for me, but perhaps not as extremely, but is the inverse a little bit different in Europe, where the violence is kind of cringy, whereas if someone just happens to flash their top, it's okay?
Well, if you're driving down the highway here, I think some of the ads you'd see would probably make a lot of Americans drive off the road.
Or park on the side of the road and pull out a handkerchief.
No. To my point, the thing is when we talk about, cultural maturity and stuff like that, we're speaking up from it from our perspective, from the Western, ultra violent perspective. When the time comes when, the replicator is available or other technology and stuff is available, is it going to be the Western culture that is going to be dominant in the world, or is it going to be something else that's a little less shooty killy and a little more, let's think about this a little bit? You see, that's the thing. And this is the one thing that Star Trek never got too much into, for good reason. It was just the Federation culture. But I don't think there was ever, at least on the shows, I mean, you want to get into the books, fine. I'm dropping out of that conversation because I've never read any.
No.
But where did the Star Trek mentality come from? Like, what eventually led us to that culture, and where does it grab its roots from?
Socialism.
Perhaps.
Well, that's...
But I'm using that as I'm not being...
Yeah. And the trouble...
But basically, we either have each other's survival at interest, or we have our own. It's one or the other.
No, that's exactly what it was. Going by the lore, and reminding everybody that we're using science fiction in this particular case to illustrate a possible way that things can play out, because writers are actually pretty damn good at that. The idea was that once we realized what the technology was and what it could be used for, it was no longer a matter of the haves and have-nots. It was now just a matter of everybody can have. Because why not? If it's there and it's available, why not? We've got all the raw materials that goes into it.
Again, it's what we want to do with it.
Yeah.
And what we can do with it. Because, if you don't think for yourself, if you don't have any imagination, well, you're not going to come up with the ideas. Even if you have the technology, you're not going to come up with the ideas.
And the other thing is like Joe is saying, what are we going to do with it? Are we going to use a 3D printer to reconstruct a woman's jaw that has deteriorated due to a disease, which we've done that?
I know where you're going,
cool. That is a awesome use of a 3D printer. Or are we going to construct a gun so that we can assassinate somebody and have it not be traceable?
Oh,
our society as people, we have the ability to say, we don't want this hostile negative action to be the status quo. So we can make laws that reflect these things. And then we can choose to enforce those laws. And laws grow over time and become no longer necessary. We can get rid of them, replace them with better laws, rewrite things like that. But this all comes down to education again and the sharing of knowledge. When you have a group of people who like it the way it is and don't want things to change, they're not going to share new knowledge, and that could potentially bring about change. You have
hold it right
so
there.
on and so forth.
Tech, hold it right there, because Dalan, you know exactly where I'm going to get you to, because I want to pull this over back into line with everything else.
Okay.
You know the story from way back now, right?
Because I was the one that broadcast it.
Mm-hmm.
This was somebody had to get. This person was held up at the airport at an airport in Europe because they were carrying something that. Okay.
It was a biological.
Yeah, it was a biological, but the nature of that biological was the interesting part. It was a tracheal transplant that had been, now you want to talk about a hit and a half for certain conservative people. This thing was a 3D printed trachea that was being bathed in replicated stem cells of the person who was going to receive it to help reduce the chances of rejection.
In a completely different facility from where it was printed and built.
What he said. It was being transported across a couple of countries, and that's what got it into the news, because it was held up at one particular place. And I believe when the person finally figured out what the hell this thing was and what was going on, he kind of went, "Oh shit, here you go, have a nice day." I wish I knew what had happened to it, but I remember airing that story at TFC. Yep. It was one of the first things. It was part of my awesome news. Well, it was WTF, but it was awesome. As I read it, and I think Ginny just kind of went, "Holy!" insert a ton of expletives here, which was her way of showing appreciation back then.
Oh yes,
yeah.
But think about it: a 3D printed body part that was going to be made compatible for its recipient by being bathed in the stem cells of that recipient. That is where I want things to. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see people, being able to print their own M16s or whatever like that. And you know what? Okay, fine. You can print your M16s, but you still got to get ammunition for them.
So here's the reason. Yeah. So here's the reason why I wanted to hit that one and kind of pull this back into the main topic overall. And Stephanie, I'm kind of getting back over to the whole the UK and the FUD and the fear mongering and all that happy horse shit over there. This knowledge, this technology, easily goes back to Professor Faraday. because the technology necessary had to deal with magnetism and electronics that he was questioned about. What's so special about the magnetism and electricity that you're dealing with? I don't know. That's for somebody else to figure out. And we've put that to use over time, where lightning can go ahead and kill somebody, but you use a specially controlled version of it across somebody's chest, and you can stop a heart in order to kickstart it back to working again. That's a collective good. It can, Brigid, help me out here just a little bit. It can hurt though, right? Getting zapped with those defibrillator paddles.
It can if you have them cranked up too high.
Well, and the other thing too, and this comes from my own first aid knowledge, a defibrillator, at least the ones that I've seen, the AEDs,
Yeah.
you know, the portable ones that you see in the mall these days.
Yeah.
If they register that you have a pulse, they won't fire.
They're not supposed to.
Yeah. Now, that being said, the one that I had at my old job, apparently there was a malfunction. So we actually could have Mr. Beaned ourselves with that. If you know, points if you get that reference.
But again, this is where the collective knowledge is the better good when all is said and done. That we have, as a species, I think, and this is opinion, okay, I think we have the moral obligation to impart knowledge, to find new and unusual, and why the hell is my computer doing it again? God damn you. It's dropped down and now it's back up again. I don't know why. All right, later. We have the obligation, we have the need to learn, to explore, to find that new frontier, whatever it might be. Yes, I know, I'm borrowing, I don't care. And that we need to impart that, we need to pass that down for those so that they can learn from it. For instance, we have collectively learned as a species that inhaling sodium hexafluoride is funny as hell. Inhaling ammonia is not.
That's not so funny.
No.
Yeah.
We have learned that light bulbs in somebody's mouth lighting up where it should not have happened is hysterical. Lighting somebody up in an electric chair is not. So, you know, the thing with Brexit in particular, teaching people what is and is not really going to have happen is one of those things that's really difficult to quantify, because parts of this are an unknown. There are a lot of people that have got a lot of really good ideas. Economists in particular, who will look at this stuff and go, look, I don't know how to make this any more plain. You've got, and all of a sudden there is just a test pattern for a lot of people because they can't understand the concepts, because there are some who don't know how to explain it. We have science educators who are brilliant speakers. Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, for one. But, I mean, have you ever tried to understand keys for economics? Unless you saw the keys versus, oh God, what the hell was the other guy's name? Rap battle on YouTube. Shit, I gotta find that one now because I haven't seen that one in a long time. most people probably don't even know who the hell these guys are or what they stood for, because it's something we don't really think about. It's a difficult concept, and unless we've got people who know how to actually impart this knowledge, who are good speakers, like Dr. Tyson, it's going to continue to be a really difficult road to work on, because how do you change minds when you can't get the concepts across to someone at all?
It was funny. I just finished binge watching. I ran across the old Star Wars Rebels animated series. I don't know if you've seen it.
Nope.
Okay, well, it's centered around a kid who falls in with a rebel cell, one of whom is a Jedi. And it turns out this kid is an adept with the Force. He's got the ability, the potential.
Okay.
So he starts getting trained, and it becomes a trope, like you said. How do we imparting knowledge? But at the same time, what I see a lot of these days is people almost like rebelling and saying, like your knowledge is colonial, or your knowledge is this, therefore I shouldn't have to count it. And for me, it sounds like a Jedi student saying, you know what, all your light side teaching is crap. There are better and easier ways to do this. But then they go down that path for a little while, realize that, oh shit, the master was right. And then they have to crawl back out after realizing their mistake.
And have to admit the mistake.
And that's the hard part because of the pride thing.
But where does that pride come from? Because
no, it comes from the society that tells that we're all winners and we're all perfect and we're all flawless, and we can't expose our next generation to bad things because it would hurt their feelings.
No.
And
let's dig down a little deeper, because basically what greater society is comparing to is sane and different. That's not what we're used to. This is new.
No, I disagree on both of these. I think that Dalan's got a good point about this, that societally there is the issue, but I think that the pride piece that you're referring to has got to do with the societal, if you're wrong, you're worthless. And nobody wants to be that.
How and why somebody be considered worthless?
Because if you're wrong, you're just wrong. And because you stuck your neck out and you were wrong, do that, that's dumb. Why would you do something that dumb? Which is really weird, because then there's the whole opposite side of it all, which is nobody wants to appreciate the egghead who is right because they know their stuff.
And that kind of leads back into the whole double down thing.
Yep.
Is that when you're proven, even when you're proven to be demonstrably wrong, admitting it to them, it's not just a blow to the pride, though. It's a blow to their image and to their sense of
firing the stream out. Okay, I've got us back. Yes, no, maybe?
I'm seeing a picture. Looks like it.
Okay, so
yep,
we are back at this point. Again, apologies. I don't know what's going on. It might be OBS that's giving me a problem right now. Again, for those of you that don't care about the techie part, I'm sorry. But I just want you to know that we're working on it, we're trying, and I'm trying to figure out what in the hell is going on, because it's pissed me off to no end.
I see. For this one, I actually am going to try to do some fixing in post to get rid of whatever gaps we had there.
Yeah, that's
Well, since we don't believe in a god, we don't have to worry about God of the gaps. Da-da-da.
Whatever.
I am the god of the gaps. I fill them with bad sound effects. Oh, and Stephanie says it looks like it. Did we go back to
Kent, this is God, Kent.
Stop touching yourself.
Damn it. You know, I try so hard. Anyway, so yeah, it's
the Lord Noah?
yeah, it's a different one.
Yeah, I'm I'm actually practicing my chops a little bit because speaking of people who go after other people for, who double, triple, and quadruple down on the same theistic garbage day in, day out, week in, week out, and friend of the show, Bionic Dance,
Yep,
has put out a casting call for an animated series that she's.
Yep, she's got that. She had also put out a thing challenging theists to just try to see things our way, could you?
Yeah. But anyways, with the casting call, I decided I'm going to try out. So.
Or how about Netflix recent series edition? Goop.
We'll deal with
Have
that.
You know what's really funny?
Have you heard the latest one from her?
I find it very amusing that a woman who's talking about women's body parts and how to best maintain them can't properly identify her own body parts.
Look, this is a lady that just came up with a candle that apparently smells like her junk.
Is that a real thing?
Yes.
Or is that
No, it actually happened. And then somebody on Facebook, I don't know if it was our buddy Dave or somebody else.
Yeah, it was
smells
Dave.
like my ball sack?
No.
It said no. They showed a picture of candles doing something that candles shouldn't be doing, and said it to Gwyneth Paltrow. And I just kind of went, "That is so you."
It's Dave. It's Dave. We need to you know what, the way that this is going, we might as well just see about wrapping up.
Yeah,
really
I think you're
quickly,
right.
Because this pissed me off to no end, like you would not believe. And trust me, some people have actually seen me when I'm angry.
Well, here's the thing. I brought up Gwyneth Paltrow and the Goop series on Netflix because this does rotate back into sharing of information. They're sharing information that they either knowingly or unknowingly is not they're not know. Let me rephrase that. They're sharing information. They're sharing data. Now, whether they realize it or whether they're choosing to remain ignorant on purpose, or whether they're just ignorant and they're acting on it. A lot of the information they're sharing is not factual, is not scientifically accurate. And some of the claims are a whole bunch of hoo-hoo.
It basically comes down to whether it sells or not.
Right. Now, the question remains, who is it that's in charge that knows what they're doing is wrong and yet still doing it? Because that person is not a very good person. The people who are doing it but don't realize it are people who could potentially be educated out of that seat, mental position. And then there are people who are invested in that mentality, who, even if you bring them, give them the education that they need to realize that some of the things they're saying are not factually accurate, are going to be like the gambler's dilemma. Well, I've put so much time and energy into this now. It's no point in changing it now. And then of course you're going to have the rare person who's put a ton of time and energy into something, who's come to that reasonable conclusion that, oh my gosh, look, this is wrong. This is not accurate. I got to change. And that's hard. That is very, very hard with the human mentality.
What you're basically doing is it comes down to, once again, teaching people to think for themselves instead of following the
But even
Yep.
thinking for yourself, if you get to a place by thinking for yourself, using the tools at hand, and then everybody's coming out of the woodwork going, "You're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong." Well, are you wrong, or is it just everybody else is trying to convince you that you're wrong? And
Mhm.
that can be hard for people, even self-thinkers, even people who are good at practicing, practicing skepticism and using the scientific method can still have a problem with that. Why? Because we're only human. We make mistakes, we make errors, we have judgment calls. Our emotions get in the way of a lot of things, but I would not want to go my life without emotions. I don't want to become a robot. So we have to balance, we have to practice, we have to learn, we have to share. And more importantly, we have to do it without yelling at each other. Just because somebody's wrong about one thing does not mean that their entire life and worldview is wrong. Somebody could have a decent worldview and get something wrong. Likewise, you could have people who have really nasty worldviews and actually be right about something. And people don't like that. So share data, share information. Cause as little harm as possible and do as many good things as possible. And don't stop yelling at each other.
That's a good closing statement if I ever heard one.
Anything you want to add to it, Joseph?
No.
All right. Brigid?
No.
Dalan?
Just everybody stop moving the freaking goalposts. Just stop.
You're here.
Yeah.
Hey, raw men, lady.
And Dalan, any last item?
I've said it before and I'll say it again. I remember the good old days when a double down was either a move you did in blackjack or a really bad chicken sandwich.
Or a music group. It was a duet team that did Irish music in an Irish pub. I have their CDs.
Was Dalan, was that the chicken sandwich with the bacon top and bottom that I'm thinking?
No,
of?
it was the
Chicken
chicken. It was the
was
chicken
top.
sandwich
Chicken.
with the chicken breast top and bottom, and then mayo
Yeah.
and ham in the middle.
Yeah.
Or the other version they had was where they had two pieces of chicken surrounding a Belgian waffle.
Yeah, we're not going to go into that one.
No.
Okay.
No.
There's some things you should not do for chicken and waffles.
Fair enough. Let me do this really quickly because I'm getting flashed at by OBS again that's saying, hey, we got network things going. Whatever.
Like, shut up.
Really quickly. I've never thought about it in the terms of having a moral obligation to impart knowledge. I've never thought about it in that way for actual society. Yeah, the Genesis thing before, because I mean it played into the narrative of listen to women, that'd be really nice, guys, because they were smarter than you in your own damn holy book, apparently. Yeah. Besides, they're also damn thing is again flaking the frick out.
Sorry.
Pain in my ass.
I'm sorry. I'll fix it.
What we really need to think about, and I don't know that we can stress this any higher. What Joseph keeps harping on is right. We need to impart for people the knowledge of how to think about stuff. What I keep harping on of we need better quality primary and secondary education is right. And the thing that hurts is realizing those people who have worked really hard to become educators are basically shit on by the society that they have pledged themselves to try to help the youngest learning people in our society. They deserve so much more. They deserve the support. They deserve to be praised. They deserve to be helped. They deserve to be remunerated. They deserve to be paid. For those of you that actually understood what the term remunerated meant, thank your teachers. Even if you can't tell them directly, thank them by helping the others that don't know enough. Because, as the flying spaghetti monster is my witness, we got a lot of people who need to learn. And we got a lot of them that are afraid to. They're the ones that we have to tease out. Sometimes hitting somebody with a sledgehammer is the way to go. But that's messy. Just be really careful who you talk to and how. Really careful. We got to get out of here because I think I've talked long enough at this point. As always, everybody, thank you very much for being with us. We hope that you had yourself a good time listening, found something worthwhile in all of our perspectives. As always, over on the live chat, thank you guys very much. Stephanie, Felis, especially, thank you guys for putting up with the technical part. I know I'm going to see what I can try to find out later. I'm sorry. But again, thank you. Thank you very kindly. Good luck this week with all the stuff that's been going on, and that was great being able to see that car your first week at the new location. That was a great picture. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was actually the day before my first day of work.
I forgot
My
what
last
kind
day
of
of freedom.
I forgot what kind of car it was, but that was beautiful piece.
It was a Bugatti, I think. No. I think it was an Alfa Romeo. Anyways.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, but it was right in front of the Eiffel Tower. There was an English car collection cooperative. I don't know what it was, but a lot of English cars that day.
It was a beautiful piece to see. Thank you for sharing that, and you have yourself a good week, man.
You too, sir.
Tech,
you take care.
You too. Tech, you take care of yourself also, and good to have you back on. Sorry for rigging you last week. Sorry.
What I said, yeet. Isn't that what all the cool kids do?
Yeet?
No.
The only time I ever use yeet is when I hit one of those flaming barrels in Warframe and I send one of my opponents flying across the room.
See, I was joking around. I have a little one. I have a son, and I remember my parents doing little things to embarrass me. You know, a little poke here and there. I figured, hey, I should get a shirt. You know, like one of the Yeet is Yeet shirts or whatever. Wear it like during the next time I go pick them up, and then do the dab stance when he walks out the door, just to embarrass the crap out of him.
Yeah, don't
make it like a video, right?
Yeah.
Put it on his phone.
Why?
Moving.
Just to mess with him.
We're gonna move it along because I'm not liking what I'm seeing on the thing again. But thank you again. Welcome back, and you have yourself a good week.
Absolutely, thank you. You too.
Brigid, thank you very kindly. You have yourself a good week, and I'm hoping that there's stuff coming up for you in the near future.
Yeah, I hope so too. We're not going to have a show on Beyond the Trailer Park this Monday. We will have one next Monday, and that's at 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern. And I'm not sure what the topic is going to be yet, so please stay tuned.
People want to find you.
They can find me on Facebook. Send me a friend request. Just let me know that it's from the show. My My Facebook is Brigid Fitch 10. Or you can find me on my blog at brigidfitch2112.wordpress.com.
Thank you as always. And Dalan, thank you, of course, as always. I've got good news. I haven't seen another notice that said, yeah, somebody else has been trying to hack into the HCTV website. So that's nice for a change.
Yeah, and to that end, actually, I just while we were doing the show tonight, I did manage to update the audio version of the podcast over at holycrapthevlogcast.com. It is now up to date with the exception of tonight because we're not finished yet. And of course, I'm the custodian of that part of the show. And for any other random thoughts or anything else that sort of crossed my mind, you can always reach that over at inthewind.yo5.ca.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. So, like I said, we're just gonna get our butts on out of here very quickly because this is pissed me off to no end. All of our contact information is, of course, over on holycrapthevlogcast.com. All the follow information, Facebook, etc., ad nauseum. Phone number for the voicemail line is 859-HCTV-554, 859-428-8554. And of course, if you'd like to throw a couple of dollars our way, that's over at patreon.com/HCTV. And as only because really quickly, I actually used our voicemail line to remind myself for next year when the guys over at Cogdis and Scathing Atheist do Vulgarity for Charity again. I want them to do a roast for me. I will be happy to tell everybody about it later, but I left a voicemail message for myself to remind myself that I want that for next year, but that's all
That
I
would
think
be
for
funny.
now. I'll tell you guys off the air what it's going to be and why it happened that way, but we'll see how it all plays out. So until the next time we get together, everyone, as always, thank you. Please be safe, especially in the areas where the weather has been nasty. Please remember, a ton of metal and rubber is no match for black ice. You will lose every time. Please be careful. Until the next time we get together, everyone, as always, I wish you all the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. And my lady, 14 and a half years later, I am still in love. Well, Matane Fujin. I love you. I miss you. Dream of me. Till the next time we get together, everyone, as always, good night.